Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a fantastic Friday night from the beach. And really from the beach. I mean, we do have our folks back in Columbia, but the pro is off and K-Mac's over at USC Baseball. So everything for now will be centered from here in Myrtle Beach at the Coaches Clinic, which is winding down as far as today's activities. We are at the Crown Reef Resort in Myrtle Beach. It's been a full day of speakers, and we have got a full show for you tonight. Coming up right after our first break, an interview with USC head coach Will Muschamp. I had a chance to sit in on his presentation today, and man, if you love defense, you got to sit in on one of his presentations. He broke it down to the coaches, and there were about 300 or so in the big room. He broke it down bit by bit on philosophies and things that he has taught and drills that he likes to run. This was not a sort of get-to-know-you kind of lecture. This was all about defensive football. And the feedback I heard from some coaches, man, they really like Muschamp. They like his passion. They like his enthusiasm. They like what he is doing so far at South Carolina in reaching out to them and opening his door to them. And he made that clear to them, that it is an open-door policy for the high school coaches in South Carolina as far as he is concerned. By the way, Muschamp told me that at least a couple, maybe three, maybe more, but at least 2 or 3 of the spring practices will be open to the general public when they get around to that in March, and, of course, the game as well. All that, he said, is still a little bit in flux as they haven't really had a chance to sit down and figure it all out. You'll hear from Muschamp. At the bottom of the hour, USC basketball coach Frank Martin will join us live to talk about what is a huge game for the Gamecocks tomorrow against the Florida Gators. Of course, there is baseball going on. We certainly are aware of that. K-Mac's over at USC, where they are winning 9-1 over Albany. They're playing in the 5th inning at the USC Park. And at Clemson, the Tigers are trailing in the bottom of the 6th at Duck Kingsmore to Maine 3-2. And the Tigers are batting. They do have runners on, but they are trailing 3-2. So we got that covered for you. Lee Klein will be with us a little bit after 7 o'clock, our national basketball consultant. Bottom of the second hour, we bring back Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR. It's time to go racing this weekend with the Daytona 500 on Sunday. We've got recruiting for you as well and a few other news notes too. So as you can tell, it's a jam-packed Friday night here on Sports Talk. As you're heading home and you're stuck in traffic on 501 out here in Myrtle Beach, between Myrtle Beach and Conway, or you're stuck at Malfunction Junction in the Midlands, or up on I-85 between Greenville and Spartanburg, just relax. Stay with us because we've got a great array of stuff for you tonight here on Sports Talk, beginning with Will Muschamp after this break. All right, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from the Coaches Clinic tonight. Let's get right into things. Had a chance to talk with USC coach Will Muschamp just a few minutes after he addressed the crowd of some 300 coaches here today, giving a terrific lecture about defense. And I asked him, so far, how are things going between himself and the high school coaches around the state?
And welcome, whether it's at the University of South Carolina, the people of Columbia, or the high school coaches in the state. And they're very important to us and what we're trying to do and build the relationships and continue to recruit the state very hard. So we've had our entire staff here Thursday night, and we'll be here through Saturday.
What's the message when you go and meet with these high school coaches that you're trying to deliver about what you're doing at South Carolina?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily a message of more than anything what we're going to be doing offensively, defensively, special teams, how we're going to coach our players, and how accessible we're going to be for them. And that's the most important thing, Phil, from an understanding of they feel like they can come to our campus at any time and gain information or whatever it is and be able to share ideas. I think that stuff is very important. My brother's a high school coach in Georgia. My dad was a high school coach. So I understand where they are. It's really the truest form of football, to be honest with you, on Friday night, and it holds a special place in my heart.
How are they greeting you and your staff?
Well, great. You know, at the end of the day, they see that we're treating them with respect, and I have great respect for the job that they do and understand that job that they're doing, and they do an outstanding job. High school football is very important in this state. I always knew that from an outsider, but now being at the flagship school of the state of South Carolina, you understand and see it visibly.
You have implemented a number of new things since you took over. So in terms of that, how far behind was South Carolina in doing some things you're now doing compared to some of your nearby rivals?
Well, again, I'm not worried about what anybody else does. I'm just worried about what South Carolina does. And I think that we've done some really nice things in the recruiting perspective as far as our external communication, as far as our manpower is concerned. But you know, again, the most important thing is those 9 assistants you got. And we've got some very good recruiters. We've got some very good coaches. We've got some great men on our staff that are going to do a great job for South Carolina. And you've got to have the backup a little bit, so to speak, as far as when you get on the road and getting the information out and getting the message out about South Carolina. But we've got a lot to sell. Again, the city of Columbia, I think, is a great sell for us. The campus life, the student life, and then the vision of the program and the commitment we're making into a football-only facility, it's going to be the best in the country.
Seems like one theme I'm hearing from in-state players I talk to who talk to you is South Carolina's really good when South Carolina has good in-state players, and you're doing your best to try to convince them to stay home.
Well, again, those guys are important to us and what we're trying to do, and I've made them all a priority, and they know that. So, but we also can't get held hostage by our state. So we've got to do a good job in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida and surrounding areas. I always look at a 5-hour distance, 300 miles from campus. We've got enough good players. We can win the SEC East and go do a good job of evaluating and taking the right guys that are going to fit in our program and what we're trying to do.
What are you getting so far input-wise from guys like Clyde Wren and Ellis Johnson?
Well, it's 2 guys that know the state of South Carolina extremely well. I have come and recruited in the state of South Carolina, but more than anything to recruit a player, not an area. So it was very important for me to hire guys that were familiar with the state. Ellis wanted to be a part of the football side of it again, and to be able to have him on board, and number one, from a football intelligence and intellect, is very important. He's been great. He knows a lot of the high school coaches in the state. He understands about the areas. He understands about South Carolina. And then you add Clyde on top of that, who knows everyone. He also knows it from both sides of the state. So that's been interesting to hear some of his stories and his experiences in the recruiting process, and being involved with so many great Gamecocks has been awesome for me.
Have you talked very much with some of the Clemson guys that you've run into here at the clinic?
A little bit. You know, those guys, you know, again, we're all in the same profession, and those guys, they've done a fantastic job. You give them credit, and they had a great year this past year.
Spring practice is coming up for you beginning in March, and as you look ahead to your first spring at South Carolina, how many – is it just wipe the slate clean from last year and everybody kind of starts new?
Well, I don't know about that. I think from a standpoint of the guys that we know that have been productive players, obviously that does carry a little credence, you know, as far as their opportunities will be concerned. But, yeah, those guys got to come in here and do a great job in the all-season program. So they're forming a lot of opinions right now. First opinions for me are hard to change. from a standpoint of a young man and where he's working right now. What is his work capacity? How hard is he working? And that's what we're working through in the off-season program. We've got 2 more weeks of the off-season program. Then we'll be on spring break, and as we come back March 15th, we'll start spring. So the season has started. That's the misconception out there. The season starts in September. No, it doesn't. It started in January with that meeting on January 10th with our team, and I've been very proud of the players and how they've been very open to us and continuing to build that trust, because a player-coach relationship is a two-way street. And but I've been proud of our staff. Jeff Dillman and his staff have done a fantastic job.
Do you think you're getting 100% effort across the board from everybody, or have you got some slackers in there you're going to have to deal with?
Well, I wouldn't say everybody. That's going to be honest with you, but we've gotten good effort, and I think they're starting to understand a little bit more of the effort we're talking about and a competitive edge. And that's the biggest thing to me, is go compete every day. You either get better or worse. You never stay the same. And if you stay the same, somebody else is getting better. And in our league, you got to go work every day and have a competitive edge. And those guys that have that competitive nature about themselves, they'll be very successful, not just in football, not just in school, but also in life. And that's what we're trying to preach as much as anything. Go compete every single day for what you do, not just for South Carolina, not just for your football team, but for your life. I mean, you got to go compete. And I think today's age and our society, it's always somebody else's fault. You know, when I don't get what I want to point the finger at somebody else instead of looking in the mirror and realizing maybe I need to work a little bit harder. And that, to me, is it's life lessons. It's more than just football.
Let me ask you about the quarterback situation, because that seems to be kind of I'm not going to say a mess, but kind of up in the air. In your mind, as you've watched workouts, anybody kind of emerge as maybe the guy here going into spring?
Well, I think as much as anything, we're looking for all the intangibles at the position. The work ethic, positively affecting people around them. All of those guys are making great efforts and strides to do that. We'll find out when we get in the huddle, and we don't huddle anymore. But when you get on the line of scrimmage and they direct the traffic and they take care of the ball and they make explosive plays, and we'll find out a lot more as we work through spring. But Kurt Roper's an outstanding quarterback coach, and you look at some of the people he's coached and the success he had at Duke, and you talk in terms of a guy like Eli Manning and Connor Shaw and what he thought of the Cleveland Browns. So we're in good hands there. I know that. I feel very comfortable there, and I certainly think we have some capable guys. We'll know a lot more after spring is over.
What do you think of McElwain so far?
I've been very pleased with Brandon. He's worked hard. As a guy in our off-season program that's been very impressive. I think he has all the intangibles to be successful. He's doing a wonderful job for our baseball program as well. So I'm looking forward to getting back to Columbia this weekend and watching a little baseball. To be honest with you, I hope he gets in the line. Chad needs to put him. I'm gonna put some pressure on Chad to get him in the lineup. But it's awesome. I mean, the kid's really doing exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to come to South Carolina. He wanted to play football and baseball. I've been very pleased with his progress. Now, we ain't lined up with a football yet, and we haven't done any of that stuff. But as far as the things we've asked him to do, he's been really good.
Can you share with us any position moves that you've decided with players at this point?
No, I don't know. Phil, it's going to be very loose, especially going into spring. Maybe a little frustrating for you guys because, I want to expose players to as many spots as possible. Because you do have injuries, and that's going to happen. It's not about plugging in the next guy. It's about plugging in the next best player. So it may be a safety moving to linebacker. It might be a corner moving to safety. It may not be the next guy listed on the depth chart, which I know how critical the depth chart is to all of you and how important that is. And it's, takes the breath out of you when you see it. But, we'll be very loose with that as far as moving into spring. That depth chart will change every single day moving forward. And to be honest with you, we haven't even talked about a depth chart yet. It's just about getting guys to display the type effort, the toughness, and the discipline that we need in the program. And that's really all we're looking for. And none of that takes talent. Just come play hard.
Will Muschamp, my conversation with him today here at the Coaches Clinic. We'll have that was pretty much all of it. There's a little snippet that did not hit the air there. We'll put the entire interview up on our website, sportstalksc.com. You can find it on the front page or also find it later in the Sports Talk interview section. Go to the link that says the Sports Talk interview, and you'll find it sitting there along with other interviews that we have done recently here on Sports Talk. Will Muschamp expressing the energy and the passion that have impressed a lot of folks here, a lot of coaches here who are meeting him for just the first time and getting a chance to see him and hear him for the first time. We'll be back in a moment. Thanks again to Will Muschamp for spending some time with us here on the program earlier today, talking with me here at the Coaches Clinic. Speaking of USC, news out of the Board of Trustees meeting today, all the contracts for the assistant coaches, they were approved today, so they are good to go. Also, the Board of Trustees agreed to a long-term extension of the contract with Under Armour as the official outfitter of the Gamecocks varsity intercollegiate athletic programs. This will run through June of 2026. So they will provide training footwear, apparel, equipment, game day uniforms for USC men's and women's teams, in addition to outfitting the athletic department. This partnership also includes integration into the brand's marketing, social media, in-store, and grassroots activations. Whatever all that means, it must be something good for both parties. What else? Let's update the baseball for you. South Carolina 10-1 over Albany, 10-9-0 for the Gamecocks, 1-3-0 for Albany. Dom Thompson-Williams has a home run for the Gamecocks, and he is 3 for 3 in his debut at USC with 2 RBIs. And with 2 hits is Alex Destino. All the other hitters who've gotten hits have only 1. Schmidt has been very good for the Gamecocks. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run allowed thus far. He has struck out 6, and he has walked 4. Meantime, up at Clemson, Tigers get a run in the bottom of the 6th to tie things with Maine at 3. 3-8-3 for the Black Bears, 3-4-2 for the Tigers. Maine is batting. We're in the top of the 7th. 1 is out, and a runner is on second. Alex Eubanks is in to pitch for the Tigers at this point. Barnes went 5 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, struck out 7 and walked 1. Eubanks has given up a couple of hits in an inning, and he has walked 1. So the Tigers in a bit of a tussle with Maine and South Carolina in a cakewalk right now with Albany. What else do I want to mention to you? Oh, we have the North-South Touchstone Energy football coaches for 2016. The North team, the head coach will be Jimmy Neal of Camden, assisted by Greg Porter of Hillcrest, John Boggs of Pickens, Jamie Nichols of Abbeville, Eddie Witt of Boiling Springs, and Tommy Bobo from Christ Church. Head coach of the South will be Reggie Kennedy from Irmo. His assistants will be Mark Clifford of Beaufort, Tony Felder of Manning, Marion Brown of Baptist Hill, Mike Highsmith of Barnwell, and Joe Hoff from Goose Creek. There you go. Of course, the head coach of the Shrine Bowl team was with us last night, Phil Strickland of Newberry, his staff, Darrell King of Lakeview, Leonard Drop the Hammer Johnson from Marion, Charlie Patterson of Hanahan, Michael Mayer from Indian Land, Rick Scott from Spartanburg, and Trey Wallace from Airport. Coming up after the break, we talk some hoops with Frank Martin of USC. We'll also hear from Brad Brownell as well. The Tigers getting ready to take on NC State. The Gamecocks get Florida tomorrow. We'll be right back. We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Blute with you on this Friday night update. The baseball, USC still hammering Albany 10-1. Maine has gone back on top of Clemson 4-3 in the bottom of the seventh. We'll get reports from both parks coming up in a little bit. Right now, though, time to talk some basketball as we welcome in to Sports Talk USC coach Frank Martin. Coach, good evening. How are you?
Phil, how you doing?
I am doing great. Down here at the football coaches clinic, so I'm in heaven.
Oh boy, can I come down there? I love football coaches. I absolutely love football coaches. I like the way they coach and aggressiveness and people knocking heads. I kind of coach basketball like a football coach.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's sort of your mentality, isn't it?
I love that stuff. That's if you play football, you can't be a softie. You know, it's you got to have some aggression and some passion, or you're going to get embarrassed.
You're right about that. And in today's world of basketball, I think it's the same thing. And I wanted to ask you now, you know, your team got off to such a great start, has stumbled here of late. I know the loss at Missouri in particular was painful. Every loss hurts, but that one in particular had to be a little painful. In practice since then, are you seeing your team getting its mojo back at all as you prepare for Florida?
We practiced fairly well going into the Missouri game. We just couldn't score. And, we scored in the second half, and that gave us a chance, but we couldn't score in the first half. And that's, unfortunately, in league play, that's, kind of a roadblock that we've hit in half the road games we've played. At A&M we scored, at Tech, at Mississippi we scored, at Auburn we scored. But these other ones, we've struggled to score. However, we were at Georgia down 2 with 3.5 to play. We had a lead with 2 to play the other day at Missouri. We all take winning on the road in conference play for granted sometimes. And it's extremely, extremely hard. I mean, Phil, here's what happened to me. I was extremely disappointed Tuesday night. I woke up Wednesday morning and I checked scores, and I saw Iowa lost at Penn State. I saw Oklahoma losing to Texas Tech. Yesterday, we had Maryland losing to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. It's hard to win on the road, especially at this time of year.
So I understand that. But in terms of performance and execution on the offensive side, have you been able to pinpoint what the breakdowns are? And if so, how have you and your staff tried to address those?
I think the guys executed. We missed 17 shots from 5 feet and in. 17 of them. You can't miss 17 shots and win on the road from 5 feet and in. When you get 5-foot shots, that means that guys are actually passing, cutting, getting the ball to the right places. But at the end of the day, as players, that's coaches' jobs is to put guys in the right place so they can shoot balls that they can score. Players' jobs is to obviously execute and then be able to score when they get the opportunity. And we've done a pretty good job of that this year. If not, we wouldn't be 21-5. Unfortunately, we didn't do that well last time out.
Yeah. Confidence level. In particular, Hakafishis does not appear to be anywhere near the same player he was the first half of the season. What do you see with him, and can you get him back to where he was?
Totally agree with you, Phil. He has not practiced well. He has not played well in a while. He came in Wednesday, and I don't know what he did or who he listened to, but on the day off, he kind of refocused, and he kind of came in, talked to the coaches, and then yesterday he was very upbeat, very aggressive, which he hasn't been in a while. And by the end of practice, you realize that a lot of people were complimenting him during practice, and I think that made him feel good, that he practiced a certain way and that he actually got positive reinforcement. And he followed that up with another real good workout today, and we need him. We need him to play with that activity and that enthusiasm that he played with the first half of the year.
Do you stick with the same starting 5 you've been going with here of late against the Gators tomorrow?
I'm not sure. I'm going to make that decision sometime tonight and communicate it with the players. So when they wake up tomorrow, they know who's starting. And but we rethunk Is that even a word?
I like that word.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a word, but we kind of, as coaches, we decided to, kind of start from scratch a little bit, like it was the first day of practice on Thursday. And the guys liked it, and everybody was enthused, especially the upperclassmen. The older guys have been phenomenal the last 2 days. Some of the freshmen are struggling, and they have to find it in them to find the excitement to help coming down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Frank Martin, this Gator team, I mean, they're talented. I look at their lineup and I see outstanding players. They kind of had their ups and downs as well, but they're coming off a nice win. So they're coming in, I'm sure, tomorrow with a lot of confidence and feeling like they've got to win this game to help their tournament hopes.
Yeah, that's Phil. That's the dynamic that our team is dealing with for the first time ever. Is that at this time of year, for the last 2 years, we got people's B and C games. Now, because of what we've done, we are the team that teams line up and want to beat because it gives them credibility. And our guys, that's a new dynamic. That's a new chapter that we're trying to figure out as we continue to build the program. And we didn't handle it well against Kentucky. We were emotionally spent and went out and played that way, couldn't sustain. And then obviously we're not prepared to take a real good shot from Missouri. We didn't do a very good job mentally as coaches getting our guys to a place where they went into that Missouri game geeked up and ready to go. But I think we will tomorrow. The Gators, Billy D left some great players behind for Mike White. Mike's done an unbelievable job in kind of getting his guys in there to mesh with the returning guys, and he's had them playing at a high level. And they really, really guard. They're a very good basketball team, and we've got our hands full.
Yeah. Their last 2 games, they've scored in the 50s. You mentioned they like to guard, and you like to guard. Are we going to see a very physical, low-scoring game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to see that, and that's one of the things that we have spent the last 2 days trying to, I don't want to say fix, but just trying to re-enter our personality, which is the aggressiveness that we guard with. I don't think we've done that very well in the last 2 weeks, but we've gone after it in practice the last 2 days, and the guys have been great about it. They take pride in being a good defensive team, and now we got to go out there and play that way, and that's also Florida's strength. So, heck, we might see a baseball score out there tomorrow.
Well, physical practices at your place usually lead to concussions and injuries. So anybody out tomorrow?
John Reagan, the walk-on, still will not dress, and we'll, like I said the other day, we'll eventually make a comment to exactly what's going on there. He's with us. He's at practice. He's just not practicing, not playing. Justin Mackey aggravated a foot today, but nothing that should hold him out. He'll be ready to go.
Coach, as always, we thank you for your time. Good luck tomorrow, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, Phil.
Frank Martin, USC men's basketball coach. We thank him for joining us tonight. So you could hear there that he's expecting a real physical confrontation with Florida tomorrow at the Colonial Life Arena. It's a 12 o'clock tip-off, and that did not bode well for the Gamecocks last week. I hate these 12 o'clock home tip-offs because even though they had the great crowd last week for Kentucky, and they were into it early on, it's kind of hard to get yourself in that mode, I think, that early, so soon after breakfast for most people on a Saturday, Night games. We need more night games in Columbia. But maybe as the program improves and they build, they'll get the benefit of the better TV times. Right now, you're not going to get that benefit. But it's a huge game for South Carolina. Florida is ahead of the Gamecocks in the RPI, so they can benefit that way. Florida's 28 in the RPI, and the Gamecocks are 34. And again, they're in the hunt, and they're in right now according to the experts, but we all know that committee, among the data they look over, is how you did over the last 10 games. And so the Gamecocks need to show a little something here with a win tomorrow against the Gators. Baseball updates coming up. And thanks again to Frank Martin for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. And remember, whether you are a Carolina Gamecock or you bleed Clemson orange or you are a fan of another team in All-State, all South Carolina fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location on USC's campus and a Clemson office coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Let's update baseball. The opening day of college baseball here in the state and around the country. We go up to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. We welcome in our good buddy David Hood of TigerNet, who is watching Maine and Clemson. The Black Bears are up 4-3, David, and they're threatening to ruin the debut of Monty Lee. And I'm not hearing David. We not have David? Can he hear us at all? David Hood, are you there, sir? All right, not hearing David at this moment. Maine is up 4-3. Let's try and reconnect with him, Larkin, if we can. Maine is up on the Tigers 4-3 as they bat in the bottom of the eighth inning. It's been a back-and-forth game. Maine led early 2-0. I'm sorry, Clemson led early 2-0. Maine tied it in the third. And then both teams scored a run in the sixth, and Maine scored a run in the seventh to retake the lead at 4-3. And we are going to we're in the bottom of the eighth now with Clemson batting, hoping to tie the game. While we try to reconnect there, let's go over to Founders Park. I've got to get used to saying that. Let's go over to Founders Park. K-Mac's been watching the Gamecocks, and no concern here, K-Mac. Big start for USC. They're in the eighth. Gamecocks are taking it to Albany 10-1.
Yeah, in the spirit of the primaries, we will call this one comfortably now for the Gamecocks. They are going to be 1-0 after this game. Up 10-1 now. A great start for Chad Holmes. A great start on the mound for Clark Schmidt. Great offensive, but away with a home run and lots of action.
All right, we're going to have to step in because he's cutting up. You know, it was a great idea. I thought we had a great idea. All right, let's try David again up at Doug Kingsmore. Then we'll try Kevin again if we get his cell out of hell. David Hood, what's the latest on Clemson and Maine?
Well, Clemson's in the bottom of the eighth here, running out of chances if they don't want to lose their third season opener in a row. It's been really a case of pretty good pitching and bad defense out here. Clemson came back and tied the score at 3 in the bottom of the sixth, but in the top of the seventh, Maine, one of the main hitters hit a ball over the left fielder's head, and then Chase Pender with 2 out, easy fly ball to short center field. He just lost it in the twilight. He really didn't even get close to it. It turned out to be a triple for Chappell, an RBI triple. And right now, Maine leads Clemson 4-3. There have been 5 errors in the game.
How did Charlie Barnes look to you?
You know, Charlie looked okay. He ran into a little bit of trouble in the third. I thought he struggled with his command a little bit. Looked like his release point was off. He settled in after that, and then in the sixth, when his pitch count started getting up, when he ran into trouble again. Alex Eubanks, the kid from Burns, he's come in and I thought done a really great job at settling things down. If it wasn't for the bad defense, this game would probably still be tied.
And Jack Leggett is there watching his former team go up against his alma mater.
He is. He was out there in an arm sling. He had, for people that don't know, a mountain biking accident a couple of months ago, and he's still recuperating from that. And by the way, Seth Beer, the freshman right fielder for Clemson, just hit one to the left field wall, but it's second out. So Clemson now down to their last 4 outs.
Okay. Thank you, David. We appreciate that very much. Larkin, can we get back to K-Mac? Have we gotten his cell cleaned up? We are not going back there. Well, he doesn't have much to tell us. Gamecocks are up 10-1. I think he was starting to say that Gamecocks pitching was very good today. The starting pitcher for the Gamecocks today, Schmidt, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 6. He did walk 4. Provey came on, 1 in the third innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and then Johnson, 2/3 of an inning and 1 strikeout for him. So South Carolina is sailing, and Clemson is Clemson is in a bit of a battle trying to avoid, as David said, that third straight season opening loss. Let's see some other scores. Wofford leading Kentucky 4-2. They're in the top of the fifth. And let's see if I can find some other state scores here before the break as I look around. The Citadel leading Virginia Tech 2-1, bottom of the sixth there. And we'll pass along some other scores here in just a moment, and we'll give you recruiting in just a moment here on Sports Talk. All right, back with you on Sports Talk, and let's see a couple of other baseball scores to give you. Coastal Carolina hammering Appalachian State 15-0. That game's in the top of the sixth inning. So the Chanticleer is playing at their ballpark, which has been completely now refurbished. They were most of the way through by the end of last year. They did some in the offseason to finish it up. It's now good to go. In fact, we'll be there next weekend for baseball at the beach. USC Upstate over George Mason 5-4. That's in the bottom of the eighth inning. Nebraska leading the College of Charleston 2-0 in the top of the eighth inning there. And Winthrop over LaSalle 11-2. By the way, big win for Winthrop basketball last night over Coastal Carolina. Congratulations to the Eagles. Fordham leading Furman 5-2. That's in the top of the ninth inning. And I think that's it as far as Presbyterian lost to Michigan State today 11-5. All right, let me give you the recruiting report on this Friday night because we got a lot to give you there as well. First of all, Ortre Smith, receiver from Wando, 6'4", 212, one of the best in state in the 2017 class. USC, Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, East Carolina, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Georgia, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, NC State, Tennessee offers. He's already been to junior days at USC and Clemson. Maybe going to Georgia this weekend. That's the plan, to go to Georgia this weekend. Also looking at Wake Forest, North Carolina, Alabama, NC State, Tennessee for possible visits. Enjoyed both junior days at USC and Clemson. Saw things he liked at both. Did not prefer one over the other. The fact his mom's a former Clemson volleyball player, he said, will not be a factor in his decision. She's leaving it up to him. USC handed out offers to 2 quarterbacks last night. Hendon Hooker, 6'4", 190 of Greensboro. Jelani Wood, 6'7", 225 of Ellenwood, Georgia. Both are considered pro-style quarterbacks. Both have multiple big-time offers. The Big Spur reports North Augusta defensive end Trey Lawson and running back Javon Leake of Greensboro will visit USC tomorrow. Lawson also is scheduled to visit Clemson tomorrow. Defensive end Logan Rudolph of Northwestern, offered Thursday by Nebraska. Defensive back Trajan Vandy of Miami has a top 10 in order: Oklahoma, Tennessee, Michigan, USC, Maryland, Clemson, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Southern Cal. Offensive lineman Isaiah Wilson of Brooklyn narrowed his list to Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, Michigan. Clemson was in his final 10. And remember, Naquez Pringle out of Carvers Bay High School spent a couple of years in junior college, in case you missed it, as did I. He ended up signing with the University of Kentucky back on signing day. So congratulations to him for getting it done in junior college and picking up an SEC offer. There you go with recruiting. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Busy second hour coming up after a very busy first hour. Lee Klein joining us here in just a little bit. Talk about college basketball, both here in South Carolina and the national scene. Monty Dutton at the bottom of the hour. And as soon as these baseball games wrap up, hopefully some post-game coverage for you there. In the bottom of the ninth, Clemson has the tying run on second base with one man out. Tigers are trailing 4-3. Meantime, top of the ninth in Columbia, USC on top of Albany by a count of 10-1. The Great Danes 10-1. Gamecocks on top. Just a couple of other recruiting items that I didn't get a chance to mention. USC quarterback target Jake Bentley of Opelika, Alabama, was offered today by Nebraska. USC Thursday also offered wide receiver Taj Capehart of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Wanted to make sure I got all that out. USC has handed out a lot of offers this week as they are trying to get involved with the best players that they can draw interest from, see if they can get them on campus, and then show them how they can help South Carolina and how South Carolina can help them. Of course, that's the case with all schools recruiting players. That's what they try to do. What else did I want to mention to you here? Just a couple of other notes I wanted to pass along. USC's legend at the SEC basketball tournament will be one of the all-time great guards, Devin Downey, fourth on USC's all-time scoring list in just 3 seasons with 1,901 points. So he will be representing USC there. I am hearing that here at the clinic that Jerry Brown could be headed back to Berkeley High School as the head coach of the Stags, where, of course, he had great success, most recently out of coaching this past season. Prior to that, he was the head coach at Spring Valley. The Citadel will begin spring practice on Tuesday. Citadel spring game is set for March 19th at 1 o'clock at Johnson Haygood Stadium. And if you hadn't heard, USC set the start of its spring practice for March 15th. The Gamecocks will have their spring game on April the 9th. And I want to also mention this. Some college baseball games at the Lexington County Baseball Stadium. This weekend, University of Maryland Eastern Shore is playing Farley Dickinson in a 3-game series. Started today. They'll play tomorrow and Sunday. February 26th through the 28th, Appalachian State will play Quinnipiac in a 3-game series. March the 9th, North Greenville will play Newberry College. On March 23rd, North Greenville will play Benedict. And on April 26th, Charleston Southern will play Wofford. All those games at the beautiful Lexington County Baseball Stadium, home of the Big South Conference tournament for the next 3 years. Back in a moment. All right, it's gone final in Columbia. USC, a 10-1 winner over Albany. So the Gamecocks open the season with a big victory. And leading the way offensively, final line score 10-10-0 for USC. Gamecocks left 11, 1-4-0 for the Great Danes. They leave 4. And leading the way offensively for the Gamecocks was Dom Thompson-Williams with 3 hits, 3 for 4 day for him, with 2 runs batted in, including his first home run as a Gamecock. And he's the only one that went yard for the Gamecocks. Alex Destino had a couple of hits for the Gamecocks as well. And those were the only 2 with multiple hits. Brandon McElwain, wearing number 44, did get into the game in left field for the Gamecocks. And he went 0 for 1, left a runner on base in his one plate appearance. Schmidt gets the win for South Carolina. He's 1-0, went 6 innings and 3 hits, 1 earned run. He walked 4. He struck out 6. He faced 22 batters. Provey, Johnson, and Haswell finished up for the Gamecocks. So good start for USC. Meantime, up at Clemson, things are very tight. Down by a run, the Tigers are 4-3 against Maine. Bases are loaded. I mean, you couldn't. This is too good to be true in terms of the drama. Tigers are down by 1, 4-3. 2 men are out. Bases are loaded, and your best player, Chris Oakey, is at the plate. I mean, this is what they make movies from, this kind of drama. All right? And right now, Oakey is facing an 0-2 pitch. So it's can't get much tighter unless the count gets full. Can't get much tighter than that. We'll let you know what happens here in just a moment. So the Tigers trying to, at the very least, tie this thing up and go extras or find a way to pull out a dramatic victory in Monty Lee's first game with Jack Leggett sitting in the stands watching. And, of course, Maine is his alma mater. And Clemson, of course, where he spent 20-some-odd years as the head coach. So you can imagine, I can't tell you what he's thinking. I imagine that the emotions are running pretty high for him both ways there. So we'll let you know what happens there as soon as something does happen. Meantime, we were hoping to hook up with Lee Klein, our national basketball consultant, and so far we have missed our free throws. We're having no luck hooking up with him at this point, so we'll continue to try, and if we hook up with him, we'll bring him to you. If not, we'll have Monty Dutton coming up at the bottom of the hour. We should also have time here in the last half hour to hear from Chad Holbrook, his thoughts about the win over Albany today and possibly Monty Lee, depending on what happens here at Clemson. And I'm trying to figure out what has happened here in the 9th inning. Trying to read the tracker and see what indeed happened. It looks like, well, I can't tell. Well, it says Oakey struck out swinging, so I'm assuming that ends the ball game. And Maine wins it 4-3 is what it looks like to me, as far as I can tell. Even though the tracker has gone back to putting Clemson in the field, I think the game is over, and I think Maine has beaten Clemson 4-3 today. All right. Lee Klein is now with us, our national basketball consultant here on Sports Talk. Lee, how are you?
Doing okay. A week ago we were there anxious for the big Gamecock game against Kentucky, and wow, what a difference a week makes.
Well, tell me about your thoughts on Kentucky now. They seem to be surging. And what about Duke? How much did Duke help itself with its win at North Carolina the other night?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's start with Kentucky. They really look good these past 4 games. Surging, I think, is a good term for them. Impressive. Tyler Ulis in the backcourt play, Jamal Murray, prolific scorer. What's really come together has been Derek Willis, who's really stabilized the front court and provided them a consistent, one additional threat that they were needing because they were becoming so perimeter heavy. it'll be interesting in this desperate environment that they will be in College Station tomorrow, where, losers of 4 out of the last 5, A&M comes in, in desperate need of a big signature victory. And really, quite honestly, this is the last of their regular season conference play that can get them that, because the next 4, Mississippi State, Missouri, Auburn, and Vanderbilt, you're not going to get a lot of points with the committee, by beating those teams.
All right, let's talk about South Carolina and the Gamecocks. The record still looks glossy at 21-5, but 8-5 in the league. RPI at 33. Strength of schedule improving, but still not enough to really blow you away. And they get Florida, which is higher than they are in the RPI, tomorrow at home. How do you see their tournament life, their tournament hope at this point in terms of the importance of a win tomorrow? I mean, is it can they still make it with a loss, or is tomorrow a must-win situation for them?
I think it's a must-win for a few reasons. First off, confidence. You don't want to go and lose 3 in a row, and all of a sudden having these young guys start to doubt their capabilities and everything, all the work that's put in. The other factor is, this is, again, probably the last of the tournament-worthy teams that they are going to face before the conference playoff. So it's another opportunity to really solidify. I think, they've got a resume that's good enough to be in this field. They need to, tomorrow would really solidify that without, having any, if you will, any more Missouri-type slip-ups on the road.
Mm-hmm. How many SEC teams do you see making the tournament?
That's a good question, because things have kind of started to falter. The team now, the hot team is Alabama. That's the team that's really put themselves into this position to be an at-large team. If they can continue this hot play, they've won 5 in a row, and they really don't have any bad losses on their resume. So, Alabama is sort of the hot team. After Kentucky, and, I think there's no other definitive. A&M's in good position. South Carolina's in good position. But Alabama and LSU and Florida are the teams that could get there with closing out strong this last stretch of the season.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Lee Klein, our basketball consultant here on Sports Talk. We'll talk about the ACC and Clemson coming up after the break. But let me ask you about Kansas and Villanova, Oklahoma, Oregon, Virginia. Who do you see as the overall number 1 seed at this point going into the tournament when it gets here?
Well, and let me finish this. There's 37 at-large bids. So there's 37 that are going to be settled one way or the other. So that bodes well for those SEC teams that we just mentioned, should they take care of business. Villanova right now is the best team in America, yet they're possibly the least challenged when you talk about, their conference compared to some of the other power conference teams. They've got one challenge left in that Xavier, who they will face on Wednesday. But Villanova right now is playing the best basketball in America, and they are, that's the epitome of team. Not the most talented, but the epitome of team. Michigan State's playing off the charts. They're going to be a factor when we talk about the 1 seeds. The winner of the Big Ten. It's kind of like a rock fight.
All right, hang on a second, Lee.
Again,
hang on 1 second, my friend. We got to hit a break, and I want you to talk about Clemson and the ACC afterwards. Back in just a moment. right, back visiting with Lee Klein, talking college basketball, and you were talking about some of those at the top of the chart as far as top seeds for the tournament. What about Clemson, the ACC? The Tigers got a nice win over Boston College the other night, coming off a win over Georgia Tech. They go to NC State tomorrow, and Brad Brownell's got this group playing tremendous defense. They can shut down most anybody, and he's heading towards a double-digit victories in the ACC. Will that be enough?
Well, here you go. You got these last 4 games, and I think, 3 out of 4 on the road. And for Clemson, I think they got to win 3 out of 4 of these to be in the best position possible, and it's not going to be easy. This game at NC State, very difficult, containing Cat Barber and company, but it's a must-have for Clemson to be an NCAA tournament team. If they could do this, win 3 out of these 4, which would put them at 19 wins, getting into the ACC tournament, win a game there, 20-win Clemson team will get an at-large berth. They will be one of the 37 if they could get there, but it's not easy. They've taken care of the business. They've won the games they're supposed to here in conference play for the most part. And now you've got, they just beat Georgia Tech and Boston College. They have them back on the schedule in these last 4 games. And you got to find a way to beat either at NC State or home against Virginia in order to seal the deal.
What about the ACC? Tough loss for North Carolina at home. They still have to go to Duke at the end of the season. Miami is looming. They look good. Virginia has been very good most of the season. Notre Dame's got a ton of talent. Who do you see emerging from that dogfight at the top of the ACC?
It's really funny. I mean, Duke just out-toughed North Carolina. North Carolina started to play to lose or play not to win, up 68-60. And now that, they're in a heap of trouble because they've got a tough finish here. They're tied for first, but they've got Miami on Saturday, which will be a war. The Carolina guards better get it in gear because they cannot afford to slump with the firepower Miami has in the perimeter. And they still have away games at NC State, away at Virginia, away at Duke. Very difficult. So I think the best, when we talk about in position to win this thing, interestingly enough, Notre Dame's got 5 games left. These next 3 are at home, but those are games you're supposed to win at Georgia Tech, at Wake Forest, at Florida State, all winnable games against the bottom tier. And then they host Miami and NC State. I think of all in this logjam that's now towards the top of the ACC conference, I think Notre Dame finds itself in a fairly interesting position with an opportunity to come from left field and take the conference, which I think would surprise a lot.
Lee, as always, we thank you very much for your time. Have a great basketball weekend, and we'll catch you next Friday night.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Lee Klein, our basketball consultant, director of the 5-Star Basketball Camps, former coach and author on basketball topics. Back in a moment. Okay, back Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Things around here at the Coaches Clinic have calmed down a little bit because they've gone inside to eat. Boy, it smells good, too. Seafood dinner here at the Crown Reef Resort. And they're handing out Distinguished Coach Awards tonight to Mike Hawkins, who coached at Wade Hampton, Riverside, Eastside, Union, Lawrence, and Spartanburg. James Slick Moore from Greenville. Boy, did he have a great career. Bill Phillips from Greenville and Wade Hampton. Leroy Rainbow Jr., Lakeview, and North Myrtle Beach, and Chestnut High School, and Myrtle Beach, and Carolina Forest, and Columbus High School. Well, I see here, Columbus and Lakeview. I think it was Columbus High in Lakeview and Chestnut High in North Myrtle. There we go. And Myrtle Beach and Carolina Forest. And Strength Coaches Hall of Fame, and that is going to Jimmy Anderson of Dorman tonight. If you're just joining us, head coach of the North-South team, the North team, Jimmy Neal from Camden, and for the South team, Reggie Kennedy from Irmo. We're going racing this weekend. Been racing at Daytona, but we're going serious racing on Sunday, the Daytona 500, and that means the return of the full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk. We give him a brief vacation away from us and away from NASCAR as we welcome Monty Dutton back to Sports Talk for another racing season. Monty, how are you?
Great, Phil. I almost missed the call because the phone rang. I picked it up, and it was another of those damn political polls.
And which way did you go this time?
Well, I don't understand how they get any information from those things because myself and everyone I know hangs up on them. So how do they get the information?
And I've never been called, in my entire life. I've never received a poll phone call, so go figure that. Speaking of the poll, Chase Elliott will start number 1 in the race on Sunday in the number 24 car. So we got the son of the Hall of Fame driver, Bill Elliott, in the car of a future Hall of Famer, Jeff Gordon. I guess you couldn't write that script if you tried.
I don't know. They've had some pretty good scripts on that poll in Daytona in recent years. But there's a lot of people have mentioned the fact that it seems like there's a predictable Cinderella story every year. This year it was Chase Elliott. Last year it was Jeff Gordon in his final Daytona 500. And then before that it was, maybe Danica Patrick won it one of the years.
I was trying to avoid the conspiracy theory.
Well, I'm just saying,
the opening of the season.
My feeling about that is that if you don't have any evidence, there's plenty of things that make sense that spread, but the difficulty is that doesn't mean there's anything at all to it. And so, first of all, I'm not at the racetrack hearing all these people, but yeah. I think it's fair to say that it is quite a coincidence. But I don't think you need to allege something unless you have some iota of evidence that it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a lot of cars junked up last night in the qualifying races, especially the end of the second race. How's that going to impact things on Sunday?
Well, kids is going to the back. I mean, it's a long day, and people make up 3 laps in that thing, so I don't think – but, I mean, it's going to be a perilous race on Sunday. But I also think that last night showed that there'll be long stretches where everybody is behaving so much that it's amazing that a 200-mile-an-hour parking lot can get boring after a while. But it does. And I think that you have to look at those qualifier races. You have to study them for information about how the draft's going to unfold and things like that. And so I think that in the first race fulfilled that need because Dale Earnhardt Jr. put himself in a position where he had to show what he had, and it's quite a lot. So I think there's not any doubt that in terms of a race at that track, the best jockey is riding the fastest horse. And so that's why I think that he can get in trouble. He can get in a wreck like he did in the Unlimited last week. But I think he's the clear favorite. And then I think in the second race, you had this series where one draft lost the other, and then you saw how quickly the second group catches up when the others get running side by side, and then predictably at the end they had a big wreck at the end. So there's no surprise, but there's some reassurance that and some advanced knowledge of what's going to take place on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. So are you expecting the nose to tail single line uh, draft scenario to play out in the race where we're going to have these long lines of cars tucked in behind each other?
I think the evidence of last night is, first of all, there's a lot more riding on the race Sunday, so the race will be innately more exciting for that reason, because they've made it where the qualifying races, it's a big to-do about nothing, because two people really get in based on how they do, and so it's more of a test session. So it's going to be more frantic on Sunday, and there's going to be more action. But I do think that there will be stretches in the race where they all string out single file, and one group loses the other. And then as it gets closer to the end, early and late, the race will be very exciting, and there'll be a lot of inside line and catching up and advancing on the outside. And it will get really crazy, and there'll probably be big wrecks in the late laps of the race.
Yeah, and they've changed the rule regarding overtime, right? As far as when that last flag comes out, that caution flag, and the leader hitting a particular mark. Am I correct about that?
Yes, and the mark is over on the backstretch. So they're not going to run it. In the old thing, the race leader had to be past the line. Now, it seems like to me that the chief objective in this change is the fact that NASCAR has had this decision between letting them race back around with a big wreck behind them, or throwing the caution because they need to get the drivers quickly and all that. And sometimes they've let them race, and sometimes they've stopped it. So it takes that out of the equation. So on the other hand, though, I think it'll be very rare this could happen, but it could happen at a place like Talladega, it could happen at Daytona. The rule also changes it. Instead of just giving 2 tries, they have unlimited overtime. So if they had a wreck 3 straight times in the first turn on the first restart lap with a lap or 2 to go, it could at those 2 tracks. I think it'd be very far-fetched to happen at most of them. But that could extend the ending. So I think the odds are it prevents overtime more. But I think that it's possible that it makes it really crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and really put a stress on the gas mileage and how much fuel you have left in a car if you have to go those extra laps. Real quick, this new arrangement for ownership and teams and all that, in simple terms, I've got about 45 seconds. In simple terms, what does that mean to the common race fan?
Not much to the race fan, I don't think, but it conveys it conveys value to the teams, because if you have one of those charters, you could go out of business, retire, whatever, and make probably $10 million to start off on buying that charter. So, and then you'd have a team that has a spot in the field. I guess in terms of to the fans, only maybe perhaps stability, but it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. The worst thing about it is they've used it as an excuse to not let us know what everybody's making. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I think, wasn't too long ago that NASCAR bragged about how much money everybody made. And now they're sitting there saying, well, it's just too complicated. Yeah. So I think that's ridiculous.
And who's your pick for Sunday?
Junior.
Junior.
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, that's no surprise. It's an easy pick. But, I mean, you want me to pick a sleeper? Well, I will. But I think Earnhardt Jr. is the favorite without question.
Mm-hmm. And who's a sleeper?
Okay, you couldn't call Hamlin a sleeper because he's good. I would say a sleeper is a real sleeper is a redo of the Trevor Bayne, because Ryan Blaney in the Wood Brothers car, who does not have a team, that doesn't have a charter, is running very well.
You're exactly right, and he'll start 7th in the race. Okay, Monty, thank you, man. We appreciate it. And we're off and running with NASCAR. Our thanks to Monty Dutton. You can read Monty's stuff on his blog, MontyDutton.com. He writes about more than NASCAR. He writes about a whole bunch of stuff because he's very smart. MonteDutton.com. Be right back.
Barber is going to be critical for NC State, but they're also number 2 in the ACC in rebounds. Is that going to be?
Well, those are two of the bigger things in terms of trying to stop them. Cat Barber is a dynamic scorer. He's having all.
All right, coming up in just a moment, comments from Chad Holbrook following the Gamecocks season opening win today over Albany. Josh Kendall has details of the contracts for the new USC assistant coaches. Today it was the Board of Trustees Executive Committee approving the deals along with an Under Armour contract. The full board will be next in line to approve everything. But according to Josh Kendall, Travaris Robinson, $750,000 a year. Kurt Roper, $700,000 a year. No wonder both were smiling very broadly today. 2-year contracts for them. Everybody else gets a 1-year deal. Sean Elliott, Lance Thompson at $500,000. Brian McClendon, $450,000. Bobby Bentley and Coleman Hutzler, $300,000. Mike Peterson and Pat Washington, they make $200,000. And the strength and conditioning coach, Jeff Dillman, will make $400,000 this year. That's according to the info from the state's Josh Kendall. Now to USC's Chad Holbrook, the Gamecocks 10-1 winners over Albany. He just met with the media a few minutes ago. Here's what he had to say. we are having a problem here. We'll get it for you in just a moment. For whatever reason, it's not playing. These things happen, of course, with live radio. Clark Schmidt gets the win today for USC 1-0. And big hitter on the day was a junior college transfer who had 3 hits, Thompson Williams. Or is it Thompson William? Thompson Williams or Thompson Williams? I got to check that. I'm still not in baseball mode yet by any means. Okay, here we go. Now here is Chad Holbrook.
Head coach Chad Holbrook joins us. The Gamecocks are now 1-0 this season after today's 10-1 victory over Albany. Coach, if you'll make an opening statement, and we'll open it up for questions, please raise your hands for the mic.
Well, it was a great opening day for us. I'm pleased with the way we played. Our pitchers obviously threw the ball very well. We played great defense behind our guys, and guys were full of energy today. They were full of togetherness. They were anxious for this day. They couldn't wait for it to get here, and I think they performed well. And I'm excited for them. But it's just one game, and we'll try to build on it and play well again tomorrow. I thought Clark set the tone for us a little bit. He wasn't as crisp as he's been in the scrimmages, but he still had good enough stuff and competed hard enough to get his fair share of outs. He's been much more clean in the scrimmages from his command, but that's not anything that I'm worried about whatsoever. When he got in a groove a little bit there, and maybe the second and third inning or fourth and fifth inning right there, and he was throwing great, but got a little bit out of line, but he'll be fine. Other guys got in the game. Provey, Johnson, and Haswell threw the ball well. It's just a good opening day win for us, and like I said, we got another one tomorrow, and need to come to the park ready to play.
You talked about yesterday the main thing you wanted to see how they would do against outside competition. How nice was it to see like Dom Thompson-Williams and those guys get going this early in the season?
Well, I love the way our hitters competed against that pitcher. He's got a good arm. Kid was drafted in the 6th round out of high school, and he had a great Cape Cod league in the summer, and there was a lot of we call it brass, but there was a lot of cross checkers, national cross checkers, scouts at the top of the ladder there to see him today. So that tells you right there that he's very highly thought of with the arm strength he has, the stuff he has. So I think that was a great test for us right out of the gate to see a mid-90s arm with a good breaking ball. And we really competed hard against him to make him throw strikes and laid off some borderline pitches, wouldn't chase his breaking ball. And maybe we wore him down a little bit. I don't know. He's got a great arm and a great future. He's going to get things ironed out, and I'm sure have a good season. I think that's one of the things I'm most encouraged about what happened today is we faced a really good arm, and our players competed hard pitch for pitch, and eventually Jones got that big hit with the bases loaded, and that kind of gave us some separation, and we just kind of cruised from there.
There you go. Some Chad Holbrook following the Gamecocks win today over Albany. We'll have complete coverage of that game for you, as well as the Clemson game coming up a little bit later on our website, sportstalksc.com. Tigers fall to Maine today by a final score of 4-3. In fact, we've just gotten our Monty Lee audio in. We'll bring you a little bit of that after the break. I want to bring you a little something from the Clemson baseball game. Our audio with Monty Lee not available, but we do have the Tigers relief pitcher, Alex Eubanks, available. He talked with reporters after the Tigers lost today in their season opener to Maine 4-3. And let's listen into what he had to say to the media.
Your debut and the emotions of it all, what you thought it would be leading up through all you've been through over the last
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was everything I can ask for. I mean, that's, like I said, this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. So it was definitely fun to be out there.
How many friends, family did you have out here tonight?
I know my parents are here, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my nieces and my nephews. So and my grandparents. So they were all here to see the game.
Coach Lee had already told us, first guy's probably going to be UB. Mm-hmm. You knew you were going to get out there today. Does that make it easier to know, I'm going to see action?
Yeah, because I can kind of prepare myself and just be locked in from the get-go because I know if it's going to be a tight game, I was going to have a chance to pitch today. So obviously it was a close game, so I was kind of locked in the whole time, ready to go out there.
Talk about your emotions coming in such a critical situation.
I mean, my heart was definitely pounding for sure because, like I said, that's my first time out there. So getting to live my dream, that was awesome. But, I wouldn't say I was nervous at all. I was just excited to be out there.
What was working for you? Those, especially when you had 5 straight strikeouts?
Just being able to command my cutter and being able to throw that where I wanted to. That was big for me.
Do you keep track of the strikeouts? Did you know you had 7 and 5 in a row?
No, sir. I know typically what I do with each hitter, but no, sir, I don't keep track of them.
Did you feel like you were pitching good enough to just keep going out there? Did you think they may, only let you go a minute or two?
Oh yeah, I'm going to keep going out there every time they tell me to. If they give me the ball, I want to be out there. So I definitely wanted to keep going as long as they would let me.
Were you surprised that they let you go the rest of the game?
I figured that if we got a lead, a guy like Bostic would have probably came in and shut it out for us, our closer. So I think as long as the game was like that, I was going to keep going. And then once we got the lead, Bostic was going to come in and shut the door.
Was last year a learning experience for you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It gave me a little bit of motivation just to push myself to be as good as I could possibly be. And then this summer was huge for me, too, experience-wise. I got to throw in the Coastal Plains League and got to get a lot of innings under my belt. So that was very big for me.
Okay, Alex Eubanks, who took the loss for the Tigers today in their opener against Maine. 2 teams will go at it again tomorrow afternoon. Kingsmore, just as South Carolina and Albany will continue their series tomorrow at Founders Park in Columbia. Let's see. Coastal has beaten Appalachian 15-2. Michigan State over Presbyterian 11-5. And Charleston Southern beats West Virginia 4-3. That will do it. Thanks to the folks here at the Coaches Clinic. Had a great time. Coach Mike Ware and his group. Appreciate their great help. Thank you, Larkin Belton, for a great job tonight. Everybody have a great weekend. And we'll see you Monday night right here on Sports Talk.